Hey there, welcome. I wanted to talk about manifesting while going through a divorce. And of course, it's a very challenging time, difficult circumstances, excruciating decisions to make. But there is hope for positivity and manifesting a beautiful outcome. In my own personal experience, I went through a divorce with an alleged narcissist, which is extremely difficult. But I was very aware that if I didn't keep the focus on myself, stay on my side of the street, keep my side of the street well swept, especially when it came to emotions like anger, victimization, being taken advantage of, that it would be even more difficult to survive that experience and to thrive. So most of you have heard my story. My ex-spouse and I maintained the same residence while going through the divorce circumstance, and some divorce attorneys recommend that the spouse stay in the home because it's a complete aggravation and frustration to the other partner. That was what was done in my case. And it actually gave me the opportunity to not fall back into denial as to why I was going through a divorce. And the divorce was not my decision. It was my ex-husband to be that folded his arms after we had gone through mediation and we had gotten to the final point that I thought was going to be the agreement, and we were going to settle our issues and actually try to piece together our marriage. And I was happy about that, but it was all a ruse. And we got to that final point, and that's when he folded his arms and looked at me with those cold slits and said, I'm filing for divorce and I'm going to hire an attorney. And what I knew that meant was he was going to make my life a living hell. And the one asset um, that I had created, but we shared together jointly because that's the way it goes, certainly in the state of California, was the home that I had bought, paid for, and maintained for our family. So he went after that asset like a vulture, picking at the remaining flesh of a carcass. It was brutal and it was what I had to face, but I knew intuitively that the universe was doing for me what I could not do for myself. I had been in that relationship. It was exhausting me. It was draining me physically, mentally, and emotionally. And I didn't want to set this example for our son. So I knew when he made that threat, folding his arms of he was going to hire an attorney and file for divorce, that intuitive feeling came through me and said, this is the universe doing for you what you cannot do for yourself. And I held on to that the whole way through what was an absolutely mind-boggling, shocking, debilitating, frustrating experience. And he stayed in the master, wouldn't vacate the master of a home I had bought, paid for, and maintained. I was in a partial conversion in our garage. But rather than acquiesce and fall, I decided to use that space, that monastery that I created in the garage, to thrive through this experience. I held no contact because when you're divorcing an alleged narcissist, the more contact you make, meaning verbal, any kind of contact, the more tools they have to manipulate you, to push your buttons, to trigger you. And it seemed very unjust, but I knew I had to surrender and not engage and continue to keep the focus on myself. So I flipped the scenario and decided this was my gift. This was a time to really focus back on me and care for myself and our son the best I could through this experience. And I'll say there were many difficult points, but the one that I'll use today for the example, because I'd like to focus on positive manifestation while you're going through a divorce. Fund, the bulk of the money I had put in before this marriage, because during the marriage I was really busy plugging the dike and stuffing the cash where it needed to go rather than in any kind of retirement fund. But most of that cash had been pre-marriage. And it was unfortunate, but I was required to do a forensic accounting to approve it. So I had to prove in a court that the assets in the retirement fund, what was pre-marriage and what was during marriage. And I just stayed positive that this could be done. And I remember being at the kitchen window, so frustrated because his attorney was pushing my attorney to split the retirement fund. And I needed this forensic accounting to come through to push back on that. And I was standing at the kitchen counter. And usually, with manifestation, in the old ways, I felt like I was begging and pleading and behaving nicely to please Santa or Source or some parental figure. No, this time I was like, Source, you better help me and you better help me now. I need the truth to be told. And it came from like my innards. It was so from within. And within seconds, the phone rang, and it was my financial advisor saying one of their staff had done the forensic accounting and could prove what funds were there. And I was able to keep the majority of the retirement account, which was such a relief, such a help. But if I didn't stay positive and if I didn't put the focus back on myself, I'm not so certain how this would have played out. It's so easy for one to give power away by feeling victimized. And believe me, I had every reason to feel taken advantage of, victimized, used, financially abused in this relationship. But I knew that if I fell into that hole, that kind of energy would come back to me, that I needed to go within. I needed to feel affluent. I needed to feel like I could handle every attorney bill that was going to come in. And believe me, before I started this, I had no idea how that was going to happen either. And what did happen was I manifested one of the biggest deals I had ever made in my career. And all of the bills for the divorce, the attorney fees and the filings, it was all paid for by this one deal, which was miraculous. But that too was me holding on to the feeling of everything is going to work out for me. Everything is working out for me. I deserve happiness. I deserve stability. I deserve balance. I deserve to be whole and complete on my own. And the experience ultimately taught me the power that is within me, the power that I had given away, the power that I had devoted homage to, that I needed a man to be whole, that I needed a man to be safe, to stand on my own 2 feet. It was a lie. It was a lie when I got really right down to it and examined all those systems that I had believed and all the false beliefs I had created around it. So I'm sharing today to put a plug in staying positive and manifesting in a positive way, even when there's so much darkness and it looks brutal and it looks like there's no way to win. No one thought that I could maintain and keep our home, our family home through this experience. And believe me, every trick was tried to take that home from me and our son, and it did not happen. There are miracles that can happen when you understand that your power is inside. It doesn't come from the outside, from being a good person or playing by the rules or following the status quo. And there is hope if you're going through a really difficult circumstance like a divorce, that you can walk through it and that things can be better on the other end than you ever thought possible. And I am here to attest to that. So if you're struggling today, or if you just want to find balance in your life, please email me. We'll set up a short grounding session together. You can check out all the other tools at my website, susangold.us. And info@susangold.us is the email to set up a free grounding session. It's 30 minutes where you can find the balance to take the next step forward that you need to take in your life and to be present for you because you matter. You have value, you have worth, and there is an undeniable force that is so ready to support you when you're willing to stand up and speak your truth and live in your truth and live from your power on the inside. So take really good care. We're going to be continuing with a theme of manifestation. I think in 2026, manifestation is going to be very important and on everyone's plates in a very positive way. So take good care, and I'll see you next time.